Welcome back to another week of Limbus Company, patch note analysis, and new identity overview. This week, the patch notes themselves are very minor, but we've got a very big, and I mean very big ID to cover, that of course being the manager of Manchaland, Don Quixote. Don's big seasonal identity out already. Nice that we're getting it relatively early for once. But it's got 2 pages, and this is the first time when I say 2 pages, I really mean 2 pages, you know? The rest of the time we've gotten identities with 2 pages. It's mostly just been 1 page for, just like the other stat effects and stuff like that. Here, this one really needed both pages though. So let's get into it, shall we? Don Quixote.
Limbus 컴퍼니! 성문을 걸어 잠가 보아야 또 부서질 않는 두드리겠지. 그러면 어버이는 이미 반짝이시며 어서 그 기사를 드리라 할 거고. 매일 이 시간만 되면 머리부터 아파하는군. 공존이 끝났으니 만찬을 즐길 때는 없다. 인간을 죽여 피로 온몸을 적시고 억눌렸던 감정을 따르고 그리고 심장에 박히는 말뚝과 짓눌린 혈양 앞에 돌아와 목 놓아 외치는 것. 앞으로 우리는 혈기답게 살겠노라고. 왜 우리의 고통은 안중에도 없었던 겁니까? 왜 우리는 항상 희생을 강요당해만 했던 겁니까? 가족의 관리는 차질이 없을 겁니다. 당신이 내팽개친 것을 돌보는 것이 저의 몫이었을 테니.
People have already pointed out a lot already, but I just love the funny contrast in the trailer where it's just Don Quixote just saying Limbus Company so cheerfully, and then it goes into, the horrors, right? The manager of La Manchaland, Don Quixote, big seasonal identity. It's got a lot going for her. It's relatively simple, all things considered. I know that sounds like an insane thing to say when you're just looking at all of this, but overall, she's pretty simple, and I think she's going to be one of those IDs that has a lot to her kit, but when you get into actual gameplay, it's really simple. Think something like, I guess a good comparison is probably like Red Eye's Ryoshu, right? Something like that, where like it's a big kit, but it's relatively straightforward when you play it, just focus on the number. Starting off, Hard Blood. This is her equivalent of like Scissor Blades or Bloodied Hand or Bloodied Thorns, right? It's her funny status effect that's got 3 phases and just changes a lot of her gimmicks, right? At 10 plus, it turns to Hard Blood 2. At 20 plus, it turns to Hard Blood 3, assumably. It's got some nice buffs on it. Offense level up and defense level is pretty standard. Gaining min and max speed for every X Hard Blood is definitely very interesting. I'm not sure what X will be. It'll probably be like 10 or 15 or something, but being able to get some solid min and max speed is always nice. Don't know why it isn't just haste at that point, but it really doesn't make too much of a difference. But yeah, just figured I'd show this part first because, well, this is like the basics of her entire game plan, right? She needs to get hard blood to do funny stuff and all that sort of thing, right? Now, the main gimmick she's got going for her with that, though, is Variant Sancho Hardblood Arts. She's got 4 passives. We'll get through all of them eventually, but like this is one of the ones that's going to be always active, assumably. At X plus Hardblood, if each following unit is either deployed or participating in the counter, empower this unit's leftmost slot. So this can only apply to the leftmost slot of Dawn, so if you have her double slotted, she can't get like the benefits in both slots, it'll only be the left slot. But her skill 1 gets powered up if you've got Priest Gregor. Her skill 2 gets powered up if you have Barber Otis. Her skill 3 is powered up if you have herself, so it can always get powered up. And her counter can get powered up if you have Delta Rodion, right? And also a little thing, when other units of allies take bleed damage, consume blood fiends, gain hard blood on themselves. Just that's probably similar, like Bloody Thorns from like Rodion, right? Something like that. She can just gain hard blood from allies. The main thing though, so what empowering means is she's got an alternate version of every single one of her skills that can only be used if she's got enough hard blood and if she's got the correct ally with her, right? There's a lot of these to cover. Let's start off with the counter this time, because it is a clashable counter, a power counter. They're inconsistent about what to call it. They're saying clashable counter here, but power counter, whatever sounds better to you. In general, most of these alternate skills gain more coins. The counter's the only one that doesn't gain more coins, and also gains unbreakable coins. And that you can definitely see here, you know, with the alternate skill 2, or alternate defense skill, getting an unbreakable coin on second coin. So her normal counters, Laughters will subside, Lust Pierce skill, clashable counter, consume up to X blood feast and gain hard blood for every Y blood feast consumed, and gain bleed if you fail to consume blood feast. That's like standard blood feast stuff, right? Consume blood feast, gain hard blood. If you don't have it, gain bleed on self so you can get a little bit of blood feast, right? That sort of thing. But on combat start, one ally with the least HP gains Shimmering Blood Fiend for every X Blood Feast consumed shared. So what this is, so Shimmering, in case you're unaware, was a passive that only enemies would have in Ruina that effectively allowed them not to have to care about light or draw whatsoever. And Shimmering has like some lore implications that it exists lore-wise, so it's very interesting to get it here as Shimmering Blood Fiend, because it means something, that's for sure. But I digress. This is a kid overview. But yeah, Shimmering Blood Fiend means that all bleed damage taken by the shield HP is converted to Blood Feast, and gains shield HP equal to the stack the moment of its application. Expires at turn end. So basically what this does is it makes it so that you don't take any bleed damage, but you still get Blood Feast. So shield HP equal to stack the moment of application, so you fully block all bleed damage you take. However, you still gain Blood Feast based on how much you would have gotten. And because it applies to one ally with least HP, it'll probably most commonly go for either Priest Gregor if he's got a lot of bleed on self and has been doing a lot of self-damage, or if everyone's at max, it'll go to like Barber Otis, and then it won't really do too much of anything. But that's fine. However, if you've got an ally who's all actively dying of bleed, then look at the benefits. So, I mean, that'll be pretty nice. And, like, I say it's going to be nice for Kanto 7, but you can only use Dawn so much in Kanto. I'm sure there's going to be funny interactions with this ID in certain Kanto 7 fights, especially given how many interactions Wild Hunt had with the Kanto 6 bosses. And second coin inflicts bleed count. She does not have a lot of bleed count on her kit. I will say that now. Blood Fiend team, very good for damage, but I think they're going to be pretty bad at maintaining bleed outside like Mirrodon of the Woonclair and that sort of thing, right? Now her alternate defense skill, Variant Sancho Hardblood Arts 15, build up to Finale. So whenever your leftmost skill slot, and you've got enough hard blood to use an alt skill, if you set it to the clashable counter, you'll get this one instead of Laughters will subside. Same thing as before, but the second coin is a unbreakable coin. And also combat start, apply X plus highest resistance divided by Y out of least HP. And apply Z plus hard blood divided by W, Shimmering Blood Fiend for every blood feast consumed shared. A lot of variables here, but this is basically the same thing as before, but it can be more allies. And it'll probably have like a higher roll. It's got an unbreakable. Unbreakable on a clashable counter is probably nice, since it probably won't roll stupidly insane. But your main reason I think you'd ever use this is if you've got allies who are actively dying, right? This is a support skill. Otherwise, it's just kind of not super major of a thing. You consume half of hard blood on self for doing this, which sounds like an awful downside, but it can potentially save allies' lives in a pinch. It's like just something if you need it, right? That sort of deal. Now the skill one, enough is enough. It's a 2-coin Sloth Pierce skill. It's Sloth skill on Bleed. Bleed's been kind of needing more Sloth skills given how much Sloth they need on certain egos, especially a lot of the stuff Yisong and Otis have. But yeah, on hit with the skill, heal X% of the HP damage dealt, consume up to X blood feast, gain hard blood for every Y blood feast consumed, fail to consume blood feast, gain bleed, simple stuff, and gain coin power for every X bleed on target on use. So if the enemy runs out of bleed mid-clash, you still gain the coin power since it's on use. It's not like an actively update as this goes on. And on hit with both coins, inflict bleed. Simple enough. Now her alternate skill 2, or alternate skill 1, god. There's a lot of skills going on here, so it's hard to keep them straight. Variant Sancho Hardblood's Arts 9 Whip. It's the same thing as before. It gains another coin, and the last 2 coins turn into Unbreakables. It's got mostly the same things. It has bleed gain guaranteed instead of just being on failed to consume blood feast. And it inflicts more bleed on hit based on hard blood on self, and consume hard blood after attack. Don't know how much hard blood. It'll probably just be a little bit because it's an alternate skill 1, but still gets a decent benefit. Also, the third coin here activates bleed on target, and target loses bleed count, which just means they take more bleed damage. This is something we've seen a little bit, right? We see it from Yearning Mercala Merso, and also the new Fluid Sac EO gift where you can activate Bleed more times in order to just proc it more frequently than just when the enemies use skills and stuff. So that's interesting. And that's not the all thing here. I've got the Blood Feast passive here because it actually ties into this alternate skill one. When using Variant Sancho Hardblood Arts 9 Whip, HP cannot drop below 1 due to bleed damage, so fitting enough for the Priest skill. It's got like a special thing where you just won't die of bleed if you would die of bleed anyways. And because you should heal up by hitting with this, you should probably be able to use the skill to run out of bleed and then heal back up to full. Or not up to full, but up to being not immediately in death territory. Probably won't be up to full, it'll probably be capped, but you know what I mean. Also, I didn't mention this before, but I really like how the alternate skills look, like, visually, like, how they're all golden and stuff. It's not something they've really done with any skills before, is really mess with the color palette too much, and it looks nice. But yeah, so that's that. So this is probably, like, it's probably a solid damage dealer, right? Nothing too insane. Depends on how much hard blood it spends, right? You might want to just save this until... I guess you can't really save it, right? You don't have an option to save this. And I guess that's true. But it's just like a thing that it seems like it'll be nice, good in a pinch maybe, but if you're in a pinch, if you're gonna die to bleed, you should probably just power counter instead. But this is probably not as hard blood reducing. Now the skill 2, this is one from the Barber. Let all blossom free, 2 coin Wrath Pierce skill. On hit with the skill, deal X% of damage dealt, consume blood feast, gain hard blood, gain bleed otherwise. These skills have been only gaining bleed potency and not any bleed count, so it seems like she's not super keen on dying of bleed herself, but who knows. Gain coin power for every bleed on target, gain attack weight for every X hard blood on self, inflict bleed, deal more damage with bleed on target, deal more damage with blood feast consumed by this unit. So this one gains attack weight based on hard blood, but doesn't spend any hard blood. Which seems pretty solid. Like I was saying before, you can't choose whether or not you spend hard blood, so that's the one thing, right? So if you have high hard blood, you're probably just going to be stuck with the alternate skill too, but it means that this skill is probably still going to be decent even if you don't have Barbara Otis on the team and you can't empower it, right? And gain at least 1 attack weight, right? And maybe more. It'll probably be a max of like 1 additional attack weight, maybe 2 additional, so it'll be like a 2-3 target. Probably pretty low, though, just because it's the non-powered up version. It's only a skill 2. But I'm not fully sure. But then the alternate version, this variant, Sancho Hardblood's Art 8, split apart. This one gains an additional coin. Additional coin's unbreakable, that sort of thing, right? And it's mostly just kind of similar stuff for the general. It's even more attack weight, though. In the trailer, you can see that this is a 4 target, which is definitely very funny. But it does consume hard blood, unlike the unpowered up version, right? Inflict bleed, it's the same sort of things otherwise, though. This skill should probably be very funny damage in general. It is funny how, you know, her weapon changes into a pair of scissors and it's still pierce damage, but it's not that surprising. I'm sure she could manage it, right? She does pierce damage, that's obvious enough. Now, of course, her big thing, her skill 3, this is the one that's empowered up by herself, so you're always going to be able to empower this one. For her normal version, though, I Shall Impale, 3 coin Lust Pierce skill, heal based on damage dealt, gain clash power based on hard blood, gain coin power based on bleed on target, and you consume blood feast and gain hard blood based on it, which means that all 4 of her normal skills do gain hard blood and consume blood feast. So if you're not in empowered form, everything you do will consume blood feast. There's no doubt about that. Also gains bleed potency, but no count, so I mean, not too dangerous for yourself, right? Deal more damage based on bleed on target, deal more damage based on blood being consumed by this unit, and if the target is defeated, increase blood feast, gain hard blood. And the only actual coin effect is the final coin inflicting bleed. Yet a lot of like coin power damage conditionals, that sort of thing on this skill. It's a lot. We don't know the numbers yet, but it's probably going to stack to be kind of stupid if you get a lot of them off at the same time. And then the alternate version, Ascendant Sancho Hardblood Arts La Sangre. 4 coins, all unbreakables. It's got mostly the exact same stuff as the normal one. Does more damage based on blood feast consumed shared here, instead of just being, you know, the same this unit. And you do consume hard blood based on the amount of hard blood on self. Although if you get a kill, you regain half the hard blood consumed. And the final coin inflicts bleed and bleed count. And if the target is defeated, inflict bleed and bleed count against all enemies. You may have noticed this is her only other source of bleed count other than her, counter. Yeah, Blood Fiends are not really good on bleed count, which is definitely a problem outside a mirror dungeon. It feels like it's being bounced around wound clears for some reason, which is not how it should work, but it'll be funny damage if nothing else, right? This is gonna be very silly, that's for sure. Especially given how this one, even if you're running her solo or something, you can still get the alternate form of this on. Although you can only do it in the leftmost slot. Maybe. I guess, like, if it's in multiple slots, if you can't empower the left one, then it would go to the right slot. I'm not fully sure. We'll just see how it works in action, but definitely very funny. Now, we're done with the skills, but there's still a lot of passives to cover, so let's go over a few of them. Bearer of the Bloodkin. If you remember, like the funny passive like BL Merceau had, like in Memoriam, where it's just when his allies die, gains some funny benefits. It's similar to that, right? If an Manchaland unit is defeated, you gain more hard blood from skills, and if all three of Manchaland units are defeated, you gain even more hard blood, and you gain responsibility, with just clash power, damage, and taking more damage. So once again, this realistically should never happen, unless you're actively throwing, but even if you're actively throwing, it's hard to get specifically those 3 units killed. It might matter sometimes, though. They could die of bleed or something. Who knows? It's just one of those things that exists for a little bit of flavor. It's similar to In Memoriam from BL Merceau, or, you know, the funny passive that makes Philip Sinclair manifest ego immediately if his allies die. That sort of thing. It doesn't matter too much beyond that. Now, Armadura de Sangre, on the other hand, is probably her main passive. This will probably be a Lust-owned, Lust-res, that sort of thing. After attack, the enemy is defeated, increase Blood Feast by X% of the target's max HP. This is very strange, that's for sure. I don't know how much it'll be, maybe like 10% or something? I don't know, it feels like it could be a lot in certain circumstances and very little in others. Very weird effect. And also gain damage up next turn for X% missing HP at turn end, and if it is about to be defeated from bleed damage, prevent them from being defeated from bleed damage for 1 turn. Yeah, no clue how often this can trigger. Assume that when we get the actual ID, it'll tell us how often that can trigger. If it'll be limited to, like, once per fight, like, per ally, or just once per fight in general, like, if it can't trigger for multiple allies, that sort of thing. It sounds like a nice thing in general. She's already got a lot in her kit for helping her allies not die of bleed and that sort of thing. It's nice for, you know, clearing the Kanto 7 dungeon and stuff, but a lot of this, like, bleed stuff really doesn't seem super useful in the future. If nothing else, Railway 5 is probably going to have some annoying bleed damage healers or something, because it'll probably end up having 400 rows or something like that, so she'll be good for that, at least, helping you not die of bleed from that sort of thing, but same time, it's kind of weird how much, like, bleed safety measures are being implemented in this unit when it's not going to be that big of a deal moving forwards. And finally, her support passive, Feed Your Repressed Hunger, my family. When at least HP gains damage up based on missing HP, and set it as a Blood Fiend, gain damage up for every Y% missing HP instead. I mean, throw this onto, like, Cliff when he's at, like, 1% HP and he gets a lot of damage. I don't know. It's a damage up support passive. It'll probably be, like, Lust-owned, or maybe even Res or something. Could be nice in certain situations, but in general, it's a support passive that increases damage in certain, like, sometimes offset situations. It's alright. But yeah, that is Manager of the Manchaland Don Quixote. There's a lot to her, but the general game plan is all of her skills gain her some of her hard blood, and then it powers up her skills, which spends the hard blood. And so you just kind of repeat. And that's that sort of thing. You want to run her with the full Manchaland Blood Fiends, just so you can get the alternate skills of everything. Although there definitely could be, like, situations where you don't want to run her with certain of her allies. Because, like, something like you might not want to be able to get the alternate counter because it just kind of spends hard blood without seeming like such a big benefit. But, I don't know, we'll have to see how the rolls, we'll have to see how the numbers go. In general, she looks very promising, although there is going to be an issue to her we're going to get in the actual patch notes itself, which we're going to take a look at now. Normal stuff, of course, you know, new identity, it's a Season 5 identity, Target's Direction, Yi-Song, right? New content, so if you want to buy more gambling stuff, you can do that, you know, one time only, $21, you can get 40 pulls. Wonder why they're adding that, Changes for the season identity and ego dispenser. New seasonal identities and ego linked to the current season can no longer be obtained immediately from the dispenser. They will become dispensable from the dispenser 1 week after their respective release date. So they're going to add Manchaland Don Quixote this week, but you can only get her through extractions for the first week. If you want to shard her, you'll have to wait till the week after. Now this is fine, honestly. It's definitely going to be annoying, but like the game's already like so lenient with like being able to just get IDs super easily that a week really isn't that bad. Now, this seems like it's going to apply to everything seasonal going forward. My main issue with this mechanic is that means they're going to do this for event stuff, so if you want to be able to get the maximum, like, event multiplier for certain events, you might need to just pull for them instead of waiting for that thing, so it'll just be annoying for the grind. That sort of thing. Also, like, getting new identities for, like, main story content for, like, next Kanto and stuff might be annoying because of that sort of thing. I don't know. I think it makes sense for the big seasonal ID. I'd honestly be fine if it was like a few weeks even, right? But I don't like it being for everything seasonal. That feels annoying. But like for Manager Dawn, like it's a special occasion to get the big seasonal ID, so I think it's fair enough. Still in general, meh, weird change. A lot of patch notes that are changing various bugs here and there. Yeah, a lot of random things. Mostly stuff to fix the issues they've had in Mirror Dungeons, right? There's been various bugs here and there, that sort of thing. Should hopefully work decently now, right? Fix all sorts of various shenanigans. Still a couple bugs remaining. Just general stuff, right? And, of course, 300 lunacy. Yippee. But yeah, that is all for the new identity overview. So the patch notes themselves weren't too major, but the actual identity had a lot going for her. It's definitely, if you do still feel overwhelmed by her kit, just keep in mind, it's going to be an ID that's going to play itself mainly, right? I don't think it's going to be an ID that you need to think too hard about your actions. You can definitely think about it if you want, but it feels like she'll probably just flow pretty well naturally. But anyways, that'll be all for this time. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!